Hello everyone, and welcome to the first of two instructional videos for the double barrel bug vacuum plumbing retrofit. The first video will cover procedures related to the hydraulic plumbing for the motor case drain circuit, which should help extend the life of these 6 hydraulic motors at the front of the machine. Please have your installation manual handy as you follow along with the videos. Now we'll get into the manual, flipping through this first blank page, and then we have the table of contents, which has a safety page, the recommended tools and supplies page, the 2 different procedures, and then there's an appendix with hydraulic schematics and some motor information. Next, we have the safety page, and be sure to read this closely. I'll make a special note that you should lift the machine a few feet off the ground before you position those safety stops, and that's just to give you room to put drip pans under your working area. The next page is the recommended tools and supplies, and definitely go through this and make sure you have all of these items before starting work. A special note here is to make sure you get that adjustable wrench with a large max opening, ideally up to 2 inches. Now we can get into part 1, which is the case drain plumbing retrofit. Flipping to the next page, we'll see an overview of the retrofit. And basically the goal is to reroute the case drain plumbing in order to reduce the back pressure felt at each motor's case drain port. The reason for this is because the case drain port is only rated to withstand a very low pressure. If you'd like to know more about the motors, please flip to the page in the appendix, which details the system requirements for these motors, and that page is taken from the Danfoss Technical Service Information. Once you're familiar with the overall procedure, flip to the next page and take a good look at the parts list. Make sure you have all these parts before you begin disconnecting things. So first we have the 1/2 inch JIC cap. Then we have the 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch male JIC union. Then we have a male NPT to female NPT bushing from 1 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch. We have an elbow, which is a 3/4 inch to 3/4 inch male JIC to male pipe. And lastly, we have a 20-foot length of 3/4 inch hose, which we've crimped one side with a number 12 straight female JIC fitting. And we've left the other side uncrimped, but we do have the fitting because we're going to use that to lay the hose out and mark it. And then we'll have it cut and crimped once we have the final length. After we've got our parts ready, the first step is to locate the T-fitting where the existing 1/2 inch case drain hose joins the main system return line. This hose collects the case drain oil from all 6 hydraulic motors and returns it with the main system flow through the hydraulic filters and back to tank. Here I am loosening the fitting and removing the hose. After the hose is removed, I hold it up and out of the way while I install a 1/2 inch JIC cap on the open port. Tighten the cap and prepare to route the new piece of 3/4 inch hose. Since we are adapting from the 1/2 inch existing hose to the new piece of 3/4 inch hose, this is where that male to male 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch adapter comes into play. Here I'm screwing in the 1/2 inch portion to the existing hose, and then I will tighten that down. You're going to need 2 adjustable wrenches or the correct size wrenches for this. And once that's tightened, I'll grab the new length of 3/4 inch hose, and I have the one side crimped, so I'll install the crimp side, and you can just leave this hand tight because we are going to take this off later. Now that we've got that fitting installed, we're going to route the hose under the tractor. And this is definitely easier if you have 2 people. One person goes to the back and one person climbs underneath. But basically there's some hose hangers under there, so you're going to want to run the hose along the path of the existing hoses. And then here we're running this above the 3-point hitch, lower lift arms, and around to that left side of the hydraulic reservoir. So now we got the hose over there to the left side, and you'll see that there's not currently a fitting to attach that hose to. So this is where we need to drain the tank a bit so that we can pull out a plug and put a fitting in for this return line. So this is kind of a trick just to save you some trouble, and we're removing the case drain hose from the pump just temporarily. and we will use that hose to drain about 10 gallons of oil out of the reservoir. And then once the reservoir is down 10 gallons, we can take that other plug out and install the new fitting. And it should be about 10 gallons. So you need, for sure, 2 5-gallon buckets. You want to use clean buckets because we're going to reuse this oil. And it's probably a good idea just to have an extra drip pan just in case. So you can see in the background there, we have 2 5-gallon buckets almost full. So we've let it drain for quite some time. And now Will is going to use this 3/4 inch square drive breaker bar to remove that plug in the middle of the reservoir. If you don't have a 3/4 inch breaker bar, you can get a 1/2 inch to 3/4 adapter and use it on a standard socket wrench, and that will probably work. This fitting, as you can see, is quite tight, so you'll want to have a heavy duty wrench. And when he gets this plug out, you'll see we are leaking a little bit of oil, so we could have drained it further, but that's why we have this extra bucket here, and it's not going to drain for very long. So I put thread sealant on this 1 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch pipe bushing. Then I also put thread sealant on this 3/4 inch to 3/4 inch 90-degree JIC to pipe adapter. You can also use Teflon tape here. It's just user preference. I get this fitting nice and tight. I also want to make sure I orient it correctly for the hose routing. So I want this pointed forward and angled down from horizontal just slightly. And it's okay once you get it tight if you need to back it off for final hose routing. So that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to take that, I have the fitting, the hose ends that's not been crimped on the hose yet. I'm going to screw that onto the fitting, and this will let me run the hose and place the mark exactly where it needs to be for final cut and crimp. So Will holds the hose in position, and you can see he marks right at the shoulder, right where that hose end starts to narrow. That's where you're going to want to place the mark. And here I am, you don't want to forget to go ahead and put this pump case drain hose back on. If you forget, you'll just lose oil, so you will notice, but good idea to do that first. So now we took our hose, our 20-foot length, to the local hydraulic shop, and all he needs is the mark that we made. He makes the cut and then puts that 3/4 inch JIC swivel straight fitting on there and crimps it. And now we're back to the field with our hose, and I'm putting it on hand tight, just how I did before. Once you have that on there, we're going to route it, and we're going to follow the existing hose path under the tractor. Here you can see those hose hangers I talked about earlier and how we can run side by side with the existing hoses. And we will end up using cable ties to get this thing nice and clean. See, we're running up the same way we did before, and then we're going to run over the top of that lower 3-point hitch lift arm around the side and screw it on there just how we had it before. And now once you got both sides on there, you're going to make sure to remember to fully tighten them. And once the front and rear connections to that hose are tightened up, don't forget to put the 10 gallons of oil back in the reservoir. It's definitely easiest if you have a big funnel for this. But once the oil's back in the reservoir and all the hoses are tight, you're good to go on part 1 of the bug vacuum retrofit. If you have any questions on part 1 of the retrofit process, which is related to the case drain plumbing, please send me an email and leave a callback number. And now please do continue and watch on to part 2.